My name is Andrew Lanza. I enjoy the honor of representing the people of Staten Island in the New York State Senate. I have an even greater honor to work with my Republican colleagues here in the New York State Senate. Today we want to speak on a subject that really is, I think, one of the most important issues of our time, and that is the erosion of liberty. Ronald Reagan once observed that as government expands, liberty contracts. And sadly, because of one party, leftist Democrat rule here in Albany, we are fast becoming a people controlled by government as opposed to a government controlled by people. And remember, the essence of the American way is limited government and liberty. And sadly, we are seeing that disappearing. You know, the genius of America is that we unleash the genius of our people by allowing them to live free. There are too many on the left who don't subscribe to that theory. And we see it firsthand, tragically and sadly, right here in New York. Think about what is happening across the aisle. Think about what is happening here in New York, led by one-party Democratic control. Think about this budget that is being discussed right here. This budget, I would offer to you, is the enemy of freedom. We see out of control, runaway spending. More accurately put, we see out of control, runaway taking of hard-earned money from New York citizens. We're looking at a budget that increases spending by more than 40% over just a few years ago. Does anyone truly believe that New York is 40% better? Does anyone really believe that New York is 1% better because of all this spending? I would argue the opposite, and I think New Yorkers would agree that the quality of life has eroded here in New York directly and together with the expansion of government. We have a party, the Democrats, who want to infringe upon just about every freedom we enjoy. They want to tell us how to cook our dinner and how to heat our homes. They want to tell us what kind of homes we are allowed to live in. They want to tell us who we must live with in those homes. Does anyone really believe that a kitchen stove, does anyone really believe that a kitchen stove is the enemy of the environment? It's absurd. We know it, my Republican conference and colleagues, we know it for what it is. It's about control of the people. It's about a government who just hates that people live free. Think about what we just all lived through with COVID. Think about how fast, how quickly our Democrat colleagues rushed to control every aspect of our lives here in New York. The failed COVID mandates, which really did not save a single person in New York, destroyed businesses, destroyed education. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. They wanted to tell us that we could not have Thanksgiving dinner with our families. That's how sick, out of control, big government people think. And it's not ending. We see another trend here. Now they are on a march. They want to tell us what words we're allowed to use. If you give them the opportunity, they will take away every freedom you have. We Republicans stand for the idea that when you let people live free and you unlock that genius, the sky's the limit. And that's the American way. So why are we speaking here today about this subject? First of all, because I think New York, unfortunately, is leading the way in the destruction of liberty. We Republicans feel a sense of urgency And why do we feel that sense of urgency? As John Adams once said, liberty once lost is lost forever. Those are the stakes here in New York. You know, our people are being fooled into giving up their liberty. The government will not be so accommodating. Once this government takes the freedom from the people, it will never give it back. And that's why we feel that today, now, is the moment. We've got to take a stand. We've got to stand up for the people we represent back home. Without sounding too corny, we've got to stand up for the American way. We've got to make sure that we live in a country, in a state, where there is limited government and unlimited freedom for its people. That's the America I want to live in. That's the America and the state that my Republican colleagues want to live in. And that is the state that we want to pass to our children, a free state. So there are some pretty simple ideas we have to do that. But at this point, I'm going to turn over the microphone to one of our soldiers in liberty and freedom, a great colleague, a great friend from Long Island, Senator Alexis Weik.
Thank you very much, Senator Lanza, and thank you everyone for being here today to listen to what we have to say on the state of our state. Albany government overreach is threatening our local control once again, little by little removing our freedoms. The governor's latest bright idea is a one-size-fits-all housing plan that will eliminate local control and force burdensome mandates on our neighborhoods. This overwhelmingly unpopular idea would especially affect my district and almost all of Long Island. The governor and her one-party rule bureaucrats want to give themselves the ability to overrule housing development decisions made by our local governments. These decisions are often unsustainable, overdevelopment in our communities, ending local control, and silencing the residents who live there. Affordable housing plans must be done in a manner where localities, local developers, and communities are working together, not a heavy-handed, top-down government control. Why would we allow our state, that can't even run its own finances and operations correctly, the freedom to create and develop their vision for our neighborhoods, overriding our local governments and our public input? We aren't the only ones speaking on this. Democrats and Republicans at the local level have not only balked at this right being taken away from them, but are furious at being threatened by newly created controls to not only be overridden but punished if they do not meet the demands of the proposal. Our local communities and our local leaders are being controlled through policies being dictated to them by our governor and New York City Democrats. Long Island has a unique infrastructure and environmental needs, and our communities and local leaders play a vital role in protecting and preserving our island. Their experience and expertise is not to be tossed aside or overruled. Restricting our freedoms as law-abiding taxpayers with their antiquated health mandates, denial of parental rights, pro-criminal bail reform laws, a congestion pricing commuter tax, and now this overreaching, overdeveloping housing plan will be the death of the suburbs and will kill Long Island. These policies are the hopes, wishes, and dreams from one party ruling New York, and we cannot let this happen. If you're sick and tired of government overreach and destructive, unnecessary proposals by Albany bureaucrats that continue to remove local control and the voices of New Yorkers, then I ask you to please stand with us and rescue New York. At this time, I want to introduce one of my fellow colleagues who I know is as passionate about this topic as I am, and that's Senator Peter Oberacker.
The sounds of Albany here during Budget Week. It's great to be here. Thank you, everybody, for taking the opportunity to come up. You know, as a businessman, I have worked on company budgets. As a town and county elected official, I've worked on municipal budgets. And they have two main components, the revenue side and the expenditure side. Here in Albany, there's a third side, the policy side. Rather than debating these significant measures on the merits, the governor and the Democratic majorities simply stuff them in the budget. This allows many here to take a pass when it comes to the tough topics. And how often do we hear people say, well, you know, I didn't like something. There was some good things in there, but in this bill, but you know, I had to vote for it because of that. And this game needs to end. Policy items like bail reform, for instance, need to be discussed outside of the budget. Additionally, when it comes to the budget bills, it is essential that we legislators and the public actually have an opportunity to read the bills. Messages of necessity should not be used to ram through some of the most intricate bills with deals that are oftentimes in the middle of the night, or more appropriately, early in the morning. And it is so far past the time for real accountability here in Albany. You know, yesterday alone, we passed a bill allowing for local audits of IDAs. And what was the reason given? Accountability. So how about we do the same at our level? Restore the ability of the state controller to review state contracts and ensure that people are not being taken advantage of. A state budget topping well over $200 billion is being discussed. That level of spending is problematic on so many levels. Regardless of the state budget total, it is crucial that we ensure that the public is not being ripped off. When tax dollars are involved, we need the highest possible level of transparency. I carry a bill calling for the outside audit of our state's information and technologies infrastructure. Thousands of constituents came to my office during the COVID pandemic because they did not get their unemployment benefits. To this day, I still get calls because that system has failed. We need accountability here in Albany. Finally, when it comes to education, parents, not politicians, need to be leading the sounding board. Local controls need to be the concept that we strive for. Those who are the most invested and know what is most important in their own communities need to be moved to the front of the class when it comes to the operation of our schools. Excessive mandates emanating from Albany are among the reasons people are running over each other to escape New York. We all remember that movie, Escape New York? It's got a second sequel coming, and we're in it right now, folks. Government outreach attained new heights during the pandemic, and out-of-control policies have only become more outrageous by the day. We are elected to represent the people, not dictate to them. Instead of trying to control every aspect of their life, it's time to scrutinize the behavior of government, ensure that public money is not being wasted, open up the legislative process, and bring true transparency and accountability back to our state. For that, I want to say thank you to the leadership from our leader, Senator Ort, and also from our leader, from our deputy, Senator Lanza, who I now will turn this back over to. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. At least for some, thankfully, the First Amendment is still alive and well. And you know, this is, and as you can tell, we take this very seriously. We truly believe that the very foundations of liberty are under attack here in New York. You know, more than 200 years ago, our founders, as Abraham Lincoln described, brought forth on this continent a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all people are created equal. That was a radical idea. Allowing people to be free was a radical idea more than 200 years ago on this earth. Tragically, once again, it seems to be a radical idea, but it is an idea that myself and my colleagues and Republicans across the country are going to pledge their lives to. I never believed or thought that it was possible that I would be standing on the floor of the New York State Senate and hear elected officials, members of the Senate, advance socialist ideals. Socialism is the antithesis to freedom. Karl Marx himself said that socialism is just a transitional way station to communism. And communism is the death of freedom and gives birth to tyranny. And that's what we see happening here in New York. And that's why we are here to pledge ourselves to fight those tyrannical forces that we see being released in New York. Are there any questions?